I'm going to make him a podcast he can't refuse.
May your first podcast be a masculine podcast.
Don't ask me about my podcast, Kay. Don't ever ask me about my podcast.
Fredo, you're my brother and I love you. But don't ever take sides against the podcast again. Ever.
Just a podcast, Sonny. Nothing personal.
Leave the gun. Take the podcast.
I gave that one to you, Mike, because I know leave the gun, take the cannolis like your favorite line. I really like my Fredo. Don't ever take sides against the podcast again. So in case you haven't guessed it, folks, tonight's episode is all about The Godfather. The Godfather turned 50 earlier this year, and we wanted to do a little retrospective review before the year was out. So we are Films and Fermentation. This is episode 85, The Godfather at 50. That's right, we are Films and Fermentation, a movie and alcohol podcast. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
We're just three podfathers who like to talk shit about movies while getting shit-faced. In this episode, we make you an offer you can't refuse as we look back at the American crime classic, The Godfather, in this retrospective review of its 50th year of existence. Don't forget to drop us an email at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all our social media and podcast links. This episode is brought to you by Dubby All Natural Energy Drink. Dubby is an all-natural energy drink. It uses a patented all-natural coffee cherry extract to help fuel you. This ingredient is what gives Dubby its laser focus and fast reflexes, making it perfect for gamers everywhere. Dubby contains important amino acids and vitamins that canned energy drinks simply don't have. Dubby never uses fillers or artificial colors. It's a sugar-free and keto-friendly alternative energy drink. Choose from flavors such as Dragonade, Beach and Peach, and Galaxy Grenade. Guaranteed to boost energy without giving you the jitters. Go to w.gg to order today. Use the promo code FILMSFERMENT. That's FILMSFERMENT, FILMSFERMENT. And you receive 10% off every order. Dubby, be better. Dubby.gg.
I'm sorry, you were paused, and I was like, "Wait, to do switch again? Is this?"
Well, I told you I got the Chromebook in the tablet style right now, which I'm not used to using, and I was trying to get the pages to switch, and they weren't like working real quick. So we got it going.
There's no hyperlink to the ad copy, so I had to bring it up again.
Oh, okay. I forgot to put the hyperlink in there. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Drinks tonight, gentlemen. What are we drinking? So I'm gonna start with you, Kev, because I know that you are using the traditional themed drink for this evening.
Man, I remembered that we were, what we were doing tonight while I was still out and about and on the road, and I figured after I got myself such a nice cut, I would stop and pick up the things I needed for Godfather, which I don't have. I mean, I guess I could have had because I do have bourbon. I don't think of bourbon when I think of a Godfather. I think of Scotch. Down in my belly. Which is essentially just, 2 parts Scotch for 1 part amaretto, chilled and then served. And this is the reason why I don't have Scotch in the house, is because it's got a very peaty taste to it. And that doesn't, doesn't suit me so well. So
Scotch is an acquired taste. I'm not a real big fan of Scotch myself, but
no. But for tonight's podcast, the amaretto kind of cuts it a little bit. The ice kind of watering it down a bit. So I'm cool. I'm good. I'll do it.
I actually had to get some Scotch for my drink tonight that I'm using as well. So, but I'm going to go to Mike because I know what he's drinking as well.
So I'm doing a variation of tonight's drink.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing the Southern Godfather, which is Old Smoky Amaretto and Old Smoky blended whiskey. It's 1 part amaretto, 1.5 parts whiskey. And boy, the amaretto is strong.
The force is strong with this one. I also am doing a variation of the Godfather drink. So I did The Godfather when we did the bracket episode for Best Mob Movies.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what, I could do it again tonight because it's easy to make and it fits the theme, obviously, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. So you have The Godfather, Mike has the Southern Godfather. My variation is 2 parts bourbon, 1 part Scotch, 1.5 parts Anisette.
Really?
Yeah. And 4 little splashes of orange bitters. I have not tried it yet. I shook it up in my shaker and poured it in my glass over ice, but I have not tried it yet. This drink is called the Al Pacino.
Nice. You looked this one up.
Mm-hmm.
So what you said, anisette?
Anisette, yeah.
Anisette. Is that like the sambuca of?
It's similar to Sambuca. It's made with anise oil. They use it when they make like pizzelles and biscotti cookies and things like that.
Okay.
It's a lot of times used as an ingredient in baking.
Okay.
By itself, similar to Sambuca, has like that sort of black licorice flavor to it.
Yeah.
So like by itself, it's a very popular like after dinner like aperitif that Italians like to sip out of little glasses and stuff. You see it a lot in the Godfather film too. Like whenever you see a guy holding a little tiny glass, looks like a fancy shot glass, it's probably anisette inside it.
Okay.
So I made this drink because of that, and just took my first sip of it, and it's very tasty.
Really?
You wouldn't think bourbon, Scotch, and anisette mixed together with bitters would be that good, but I think it's the bitterness, the sweetness of the anisette, and the smokiness of the 2 hard liquors that are in there kind of blend together to make this like really interesting flavor.
As you were listing off your ingredients for your Al Pacino, I was thinking of that meme, or not. It wasn't even a meme. It was an actual interview question between 2 cast members from the House of the Dragon, and it's the older Alicette, and it's the old, and where she's talking about what's your drink of choice,
and
as she lists off it's Negronis,
right? Yeah,
Negronis, but she adds a certain thing. And then another certain thing, and she's like, "Oh, you know."
Yeah,
so.
I actually thought about doing a Negroni tonight too because it's kind of another one of those. I looked up like common Italian cocktails, and that was like one of them. But I'm like, I don't know. I didn't really have everything I needed to make it, and I wasn't sure I was going to enjoy it anyway. And this one just sounded interesting, just because of the whole anisette. Adding the anisette to it. It's just an odd, ingredient for a mixed drink.
Yeah.
But it's actually way better than I thought it was going to be. Mike, I think we're due for a history lesson.
This day in film history.
Wait, just before you get started with that, I'm sitting in my comfy chair in my office with my cat over here begging for attention. So I am like the Godfather right now. Watch. Here, hold on. Here he is. There's my Gary guy. Go ahead, Mike, what's your history lesson?
This day in film history, this past Tuesday, 11/29, was Chadwick Boseman's birthday. He would have been 41.
And another, like one of those, celebrity passings that pissed me off because there's so much potential
Talent.
we didn't get to see, kind of like Heath Ledger, same thing. And I feel like that, I actually started watching Wakanda Forever a little bit, and I had to stop because the opening like 10 minutes was just so depressing. It opens with like the funeral for T'Challa.
Okay.
And then just kind of like from there, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need to watch this on a different night. I wasn't in like the headspace for it that evening. What else happened today, Mike?
In 1982, Tootsie, directed by Sidney Pollack and starring Dustin Hoffman and Jessica Lange, premiered in Hollywood.
Yeah, Tootsie, the original Mrs. Doubtfire.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good movie. Underrated.
Good movie.
Underappreciated.
It's one I haven't seen in a really long time.
I don't think Megan's seen it, and I wanted to kind of introduce her
a movie time forgot.
It is almost a movie time forgot. It's almost a movie you can't make anymore today either in some fashions. But it is an entertaining movie.
It is featured on a Netflix thing about the I don't want to say the sexual revolution, but the
like
it involves,
LGBTQ. Like it's like one of
well,
the first.
it's one of, actually this is about like it, because it touches on the use of scene, and it's about how women were treated in the industry, you know, what they had to do, what they were required to do, what, you know, the inequality between female actors and male actors. So
This is what I'm dealing with right now. I'm trying to host this podcast, and this friggin' cat will not stop headbutting me.
you're in my
Very
spot.
nice.
You're in my spot.
Like if you see my screen going back and forth, it's because he's headbutting me as I'm trying to like move things around. So what is the last fact I actually added this one today because I just found out about it today, and I'm like, this is an awesome fact to have today.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation was released on this day in 1989. It became an instant classic.
So principal at my school likes to do Christmas trivia every year around this time, and she gets mad at me because she can't stump me because I basically know everything, especially about movies. And she said this year she's going to try to get some more difficult questions to try to stump me. So today she came around to my classroom and she was holding a mug that she got last year for Christmas, and she goes, "Can you tell me what movie this is from?" And I went, "Seriously? That's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation." The mug was a picture of a Christmas tree, and underneath it, it said, "Bend over, and I'll show you where to put this." And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "How dare you say that to me?" And he goes, "I wasn't talking to you." What's your fun drink fact for this evening, Mike?
Tonight we're going to go with another top 20 must tries. This one is called Bat Squatch Hazy IPA.
Bat Squatch?
Bat Squatch.
Okay.
From Rogue Ales, Newport, Oregon. Rogue ramps up the tropical and citrus aroma hops in this homage to the rumored legendary beast haunting Mount St. Helens. Unlike with many canned hazy brews, the hop oils clouding this one are fully integrated with the beer, meaning it pours cloudy from the can immediately. Bat Squatch features coarse foam, lots of orange, pineapple, coconut, mango, and liquid in the aroma. That's about it. It's a legendary fruit bomb all its own.
Okay, so I've never heard of bat squatch, the creature.
No, but it's something out in Oregon and Washington State, so something out west.
I was just saying, like, this is how much of a nerd I am. I have a certification in cryptozoology, and I've never heard of this. And yes, I looked it up just now on Google, and I got a picture of the bat squatch. It's basically Sasquatch with wings.
Yeah.
So notes from the last show. Our last show was 2 weeks ago. We did the villains who become heroes. And it was after the show that I thought of one that I'm like, God, this is a good one. How did I not have this on the list? Harley Quinn. And Harley Quinn is pretty much a villain who maybe an anti-hero, but she's more or less somebody you kind of root for now at this point.
Yeah, I think she's more the villain you like to like.
But if you think of like the people at All Hallows Eve podcast tweeted me by extension the Suicide Squad. So yeah, I mean the Suicide Squad are villains that are brought together to kind of do a heroic thing. So I feel like, yeah, I mean they kind of fit, I guess.
Yeah.
I wrote down here my Scarlett Johansson conundrum. It's not really conundrum. It's more like a coincidence, I would say. But I thought conundrum just sounded more fun. One of our independent pod friends on Twitter, Yeti F, posted a tweet earlier this week that said, whatever the first picture is above this tweet is how you will die. How are you going to die? So I scrolled down to see what the picture was above the tweet, and the first picture that popped up was a picture of Scarlett Johansson on the red carpet. And so I went down into the tweet, I copied the picture that I saw, and I said, So apparently this is how I'm going to die. I'm okay with this. No complaints. And he agreed with me. I saw today that The Mandalorian Season 3 premieres on March 1st.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought it was February, but apparently they pushed it up a little bit. But I'm excited for that after seeing the trailer for it. It looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And today they released a trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Okay.
That I did see. That looks like it's going to be a tearjerker.
Yeah, so like I know Dave Bautista had already said that he's not returning as Drax. This is his last movie.
Okay.
I know Bradley Cooper and Karen Gillan have a lot of projects on their plate right now. Chris Pratt is going to be the voice of Mario in a new animated Mario film. Like everybody in the film basically has a lot of other projects on hand, so it does seem like this might be the last movie for all of them.
For that ensemble?
Or at least a good majority of the ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, from a few of the scenes I saw in there, it looks like kind of a tearjerker because it also looks like it's going to go into like the backstory for some characters too, like Rocket and Groot and all that. So
yeah,
but I mean, it looked pretty good, so I'm excited to see it. And did you guys see the holiday special?
Not yet.
Haven't watched that yet. No, haven't gotten to it.
You listened to my podcast review of it.
I know, and there weren't any spoilers.
I didn't put the spoilers in there on purpose because the ending is worth not spoiling.
Right. So I mean, I could listen to it and not worry that it was going to be spoiled, and I appreciated the mini podcast. It was good. It's why you're number one, by the way.
Yeah.
But no, there's too much. I overloaded my plate with things to watch. I'm watching Wednesday. I'm watching Jack Ryan.
I haven't watched Wednesday yet. How is that?
Wednesday's great. Wednesday, it's one Megan and I are watching it, and Megan's like laughing out loud. I'm like, wow, So I mean, I'm appreciating it.
About Wednesday,
huh?
You guys see the post I sent about Wednesday?
Yes.
No.
Mm-hmm.
What I imagine Wednesday being for by Tim Burton, and it's a picture of Wednesday with Johnny
It's a
Depp's
picture
on
of
it.
Johnny Depp, but he's dressed up as Wednesday.
I would picture Helena Bonham Carter.
I've
seen that dance scene from Wednesday like a million times now.
Mm-hmm. So I saw a video of what's her name, Jenna Ortiz, right? Or Jenna Ortiz?
Jenna Ortega.
Ortega.
Okay.
Yeah, Jenna Ortega, and she said a lot of her inspiration came from '80s goth videos, like she would see them dancing, and some of the punk bands from the '80s, and those who contributed to the film, and how she mimicked how they danced. So I like that she put in the research for the role
because she choreographed it herself. She said
she choreographed that. She learned German. She learned how to play the cello.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely want to check it out at some point. Just like I said,
I'm in the same boat you are.
Yeah, so many shows.
Well, I just picked up Paramount Plus, so I'm watching, Discovery, Picard. I just watched the first episode of Halo.
Mike's boning up on his Star Trek and video game TV shows right now.
Mm-hmm.
Halo was the first episode was really good.
That's is that computer animated?
No,
really, it's real people.
Live action.
Oh wow,
Yep.
Yeah, I have to check that out. So I did a Twitter poll for tonight, given that we were talking about The Godfather, and I wrote, this week we're recording a tribute episode to The Godfather, which turned 50 earlier this year. What's your favorite mob movie? Answer below. And I gave 4 choices. The choices were The Godfather, Goodfellas, The Departed, or something else, which you can then tell me about in the comments.
Casino?
Well, I mean, if they like that one, they can tell me about it in the comments. So third place was a tie between The Departed and other films.
Okay.
And among the other films, we have Donald from You, Me in a Movie said that he likes The Godfather, Goodfellas, and Infernal Affairs, which is the Chinese film that The Departed is based on. This podcast that just recently started following us called Principia de Cinema, which is an Italian podcast, is a fan of Prizzi's Honor. Space Castle says it's got to be The Godfather. Brando and Pacino are magnificent in it. It's one of the most iconic and quotable movies ever, and it's brilliant all around. I've written papers and given presentations on it in school.
Yeah, I read that post. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Recast at 2.0 said that their favorite is The Untouchables, which I said I can't argue it. That's in my top 5.
Yeah.
But The Departed and others came in third place tie with 12% of the votes. The Godfather was second place with 35% of the votes. And in first place for favorite mob film was Goodfellas with 41% of the votes. It's close, and I can't argue for either one of those. I think they're both masterpieces. So I just I wanted to get that out there because I thought it was a good little poll for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing I have on here is Spielberg's favorite movies. So this is a website. This is an article I had read recently on a website called IndieWire. And Steven Spielberg, who recently released The Fabelmans, which is a semi-autobiographical movie about his life growing up and his love for filmmaking. And it's getting a lot of award buzz. And I've heard it's a really, really good film. I definitely want to check it out at some point. So in answer to that, he released an article recently, his 22 films that everybody should see. And a few things I found interesting about this. Recently, Quentin Tarantino joined Martin Scorsese in his bashing of superhero films, saying that they're not real cinema, they're just popcorn films and all that. So it made me laugh to see that 2 of the films on Spielberg's list of favorite films were superhero films. So his favorite films are The Greatest Show on Earth from 1952, which is a movie about the circus. The Godfather, of course, which is the main reason I looked up this article. The Searchers from 1956 with John Wayne. Stagecoach from 1939 with John Wayne. How Green Was My Valley, which is the first film that John Ford won an Academy Award for Best Director. Tootsie, to go along with your film fact. Captain's Courageous from 1937. The Best Years of Our Lives from 1946. Fantasia. The Shining from 1980. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 is one of his favorite movies, as is the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. And Tim Burton's Batman duology. So he's into the Batman films. Citizen Kane, Lawrence of Arabia, which are not shocking to me. It's a Wonderful Life. Star Wars.
Hey, Lee, can I recommend It's a Wonderful Life to you?
Yeah, sure. I'll put it on my list. Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope.
Really?
Viva Las Vegas with Elvis Presley. The Man from Rio. The Seven Samurai, which is the Akira Kurosawa film that became The Magnificent Seven in America. From Russia with Love with Sean Connery as Bond. Touch of Evil and Touch of Evil, which is another Orson Welles film from 1958. So I thought it was an interesting list.
Godzilla.
I thought it was an interesting list, given that he had a couple of superhero films on there after Scorsese and Tarantino were shitting on him recently.
Godzilla 2001 and A Thing from Another World. That's the list.
Yeah, he's a big Stanley Kubrick fan, it looks like. As is, I think, most people. So recently on Good Pods, we had some. Wait 1 second. So we had some new rankings recently, and I was very excited about this. Among the top 100 shows, regardless of genre, we were number 16 on the regular list and number 14 on the independent list. On the all TV and film charts, we were number 3 in both the regular and indie list. And as of the recording of this episode this evening, on the Good Pods Film Review podcast, both independent and regular, we are, Michael? That's not quite a drum roll. That's more like the beginning of the Music Man.
That's the only one I have.
We are number 1. Finally made it to the number 1 spot on the film review charts on Good Pods.
We are the
champions, my friends. And it was, let me tell you something, man. it was a week of me going, what the fuck? Because we had so many listens to that mini pod, as well as the previous episode. We had a lot of listens too. And we were like stuck at the number 2 spot for like days. And I'm like, this is like, I don't know what else to do. I'm begging people to listen on Twitter and stuff. And then it was whenever I texted you guys, I had just happened to go on just to see. I was at school and I was sitting at my desk and I went on just to see, and it said number 1, and I was in my desk like, like try not to make a lot of noise. It was really cool. So we have to give some special shout outs tonight. Shout out to our 1,000th follower on Twitter. We are currently at 1,052 followers as of the beginning of this recording. But over the weekend, we reached our 1,000th follower. His name is Rodney Munch. You can visit him at Who Peed in the Pool. And I'm like, how apropos that our 1,000th followers Twitter handle is Who Peed in the Pool. But we also have some of our usual independent podcast friends out there that we like to give a shout out to, including some new ones on the list that have just recently started following us and listening to us on Good Pods and Spotify, etc. So, Mike, why don't you start us out there?
I'll give a shout out to Wrestling World with Austin Boyer.
I'm going to give a shout out to Manic Pixie Weirdo Podcast.
We're going to say a big thank you to Recasted 2.0.
There's a nod to Bar Banter.
Here's a nod to my buddies Brandon and Travis at the Rick and Morty unofficial podcast called Interdimensional RSS. I'm sorry. And they also host the Apathetic Enthusiasm podcast.
Big thanks to Mr. Gentleman.
Thanks to 8750 with Yeti F.
Thank you to Space Castle, who, of course, made our logo for us.
And giving some love out to Fandalorians. Each host follows us separately now.
Yeah, all 3 of the hosts, aside from the Fandalorian show itself, follow us on Twitter. All 3 hosts follow separately now.
Thank you so much, Fandalorians.
I give it thanks to the Geeky Dad podcast.
Big thanks to All Hallows Eve.
Shout out to Voice of 4.
They are one of the new ones, as well as the next one.
Shout out to Giggle Mugs podcast.
Back to the Blockbuster podcast. Shout out to you guys. They're also new in our independent club.
And big thanks going out to John at Wrestling Fan Insight Podcast.
And of course, as always, You, Me, and a Movie with Donald.
And pizza.
No,
God damn it! I try to avoid that tonight.
There's always pizza.
There's always pizza. Our main segment this evening is brought to you by Newsly.
Newsly is an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. It picks up the most trending articles on the web on topics you choose at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time ever, the entire web becomes listenable, all in one place. Follow any topics from sports, tech, business, science, even Bitcoin. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud. And they have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 80 countries. Our podcast is there too. Download and use Newsly for free now from www.newsly.me or from the link in the description. And use the promo code ANDFERMENT to receive 1 month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling. Start listening.
Newsly!
So
Tommy.
it doesn't sound like this, right?
Doesn't sound like that now.
Okay.
Our main segment again this evening is all about The Godfather at 50 years old. Or should I say 50 years young? So I broke it down in a few different things here for this because I want to do it as like a little bit of like a retrospective analysis. So we got what makes it a classic, what are some of the themes of the film, favorite quotes, which I have a link to a page for that, goofs and continuity errors. One of them is very, very glaring, and I think most people know about it. Casting what ifs. I was so like, some of these I knew already, and then as I was researching it and I saw some of the other names, I'm like, you gotta be shitting me that these are the people they thought could play these roles. Number 6, I think, is going to be a very quick question to answer. And then finally, does it still hold up today? So let's start with what makes it a classic. In my opinion, I wrote down that it's more than just a mob movie. I think most people have talked about how it's a family film as well, and not family film in the sense that you can sit around with the kids and watch it, but it's about it's about a family that's very tight knit, very close. You get real intimate with this family in the film, like you know everybody as if you've known them your whole life, kind of thing. And it's an insular film. It's not about the outside world. It's all about what's happening inside this family and their reactions with other mob families and such.
Well,
so
gets intimate with somebody there, that's for sure.
What's that?
Sonny gets intimate with things, that's for sure.
Well, it's still within the family, It's one of his sister's bridesmaids, It spans decades. So the movie starts in the 40s and ends right about the end of the 50s. And then continues on in the decades throughout the the subsequent films that follow. And for me, as somebody who's a big fan of Shakespeare, to me it's a very Shakespearean plot, because it's about the rise and fall of an empire, basically, and a guy who starts out as somebody who's kind of a good character, but by the end is more corrupt than the people that came before him by the end of the film. You all right there, Kev?
We keep losing picture.
Good.
Keep losing your picture.
What?
Your camera keeps going out.
Oh, sorry about that. It's the laptop.
It's the 13-year-old iPad.
That's not even working anymore.
Yeah. So you guys have anything you want to add to my reasons for why it's a classic?
No, you pretty much covered it.
I think you're right. I think it's a family film. You should bring the kids in to watch it so that they know the family business.
Mm-hmm.
You
want them to learn that lesson that they should never take sides against the family ever.
That's right. You don't go against the family.
Never speak out about the family. Never speak out in front of a stranger. Never.
Yeah.
What's he say? No, the line in the scene is, "You have to excuse my children. I have a sentimental weakness for them. They speak when they should listen." Yeah, I mean, it's such a quotable film. It's one of those rare films that's like a prestige film that gets a lot of like like good praise and stuff, but is also very popular. As opposed to like some Oscar winners for Best Picture where nobody's ever seen them, but for some reason they're the Best Picture. Like The Godfather was the fucking hit at the box office that year. Won the Oscar for Best Picture. Marlon Brando won the Oscar for Best Actor, even though he's only in like 18 minutes of the film, of a 3-hour film. The real main actor in the film is Al Pacino, who gets relegated to Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination, and was nominated with James Caan and Robert Duvall. So you're talking about probably a 3-way split that led to them not winning anything that year for that award. Wins Mario Puzo and Francis Ford Coppola screenplay adaptation awards. Coppola wins the Oscar for Best Director. All this coming off the heels of all these stories about how Coppola almost got fired and all the actors that they wanted to replace, and how the studio didn't think they were going to make any money off of this. And, it's just that usual thing where like the studio doesn't have faith in its own product. Based on the novel by Mario Puzo. And for the most part, contains most of the story from the novel. The novel is actually part 1 and part 2, so they split it into the 2 separate films. They did leave out one plot point that I'm very happy for, and it's this whole plot about the girl that Sonny's banging, and how she has to go to LA to get plastic surgery because she has a giant vagina.
Yeah, we don't need that.
And the only reason she likes banging Sonny is because her giant vagina can fit his giant dick.
You really don't need to know that.
Yeah, I don't know if this movie would have been a classic if they included that subplot. This might have been looked at as some like weird, like novelty thing, like Caligula.
It might have got an X rating for that.
Yeah. We already talked about some of the themes in the film. One of the main themes is the theme of family. As much as it's regarded as a crime film and a mob classic, and is like the template for a lot of the films that followed after this. When you think about it deep down, it's all about being loyal to your family and why family is important.
Diesel. All right,
Yes.
Vin Diesel. It's about family.
But with family, yeah. No, it's
You can do it with family.
I mean, he Don Corleone says it himself in the film. A man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if yes, The Godfather, the original, was very deeply involved in family, but I think The Godfather Part 2 really brings home the family and the togetherness. You know, how Vito comes to be and how he does things for his kids and how you see him with his kids and what he has to do when he, leaves Italy and comes to America and vice versa.
Well, if we're still doing the podcast in 2024, we can do The Godfather Part 2 at 50. Because one of the things I like about that is, you're talking about the flashback scenes with De Niro playing the
flashback scenes with De Niro, yeah.
And I like that because it shows you how the family kind of grows and comes to be.
Mm-hmm.
But it also plays a really nice contrast to the modern day story they're telling with Pacino's Michael Corleone, where it's more about how destructive he becomes with the family. You know, he has Fredo, his brother, killed.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many like things about it that just show how much more brutal he is than Vito ever was. Which
sister becomes real brutal after that too.
Yeah, like she starts like moseying up to him a little bit more because she knows that he has all the power, which is the second theme here. Power. He had all the judges and politicians in his pocket.
Like
ultimate power.
Ultimate power. It's a big film for masculinity. The women have very little to do in this movie aside from either get beat up by their husbands or lied to by their husbands or cheated on by their husbands.
And to my understanding, they actually glued more chest hair on most of the men for the scenes where they had their shirts open.
It's funny. I was going to read this later on, but I'll read it now since you brought it up. I was looking at old reviews for the
I bring up.
I was looking up old reviews for the film, and it was hard to find reviews that had like negative comments to make about it. There were like a few here and there. But one of the funniest negative comments I read about it was, one warning to viewers: James Caan's shoulder hair, which seen on a big screen, may frighten small children considerably. You'll want to discuss it openly after the show, answering any questions your kids might have in an honest and direct manner. I know which scene you're talking about. It's the scene where he's in the tank top eating Chinese food.
And the white beater tank top.
Yep. And the white beater tank top. James Caan. I was laughing because I was thinking about we were talking about Elf earlier, and I was like, I can't believe he's an elf. Like, that's the most unbelievable part of Elf, is not that Will Ferrell was raised by Santa and the elves. The most unbelievable part is you're supposed to feel like James Caan could be warm and cuddly at Christmas time. The film is also about loyalty and betrayal. You have all these characters who turn on each other. You have the guy that sells the Godfather out, who they then kill in the cannoli scene.
Right.
Luca Brasi, who's so loyal to the family that he ends up getting killed for it, and it's
You got the son-in-law that
I like Clemenza better anyway.
You like Clemenza better anyway. I was Tessio at the end, who gets killed because he's the one that betrayed. He's the one that set Michael up for the meeting with Barzini. There's that great line. Tom Hagen's in the car with Vito Corleone, and he's like, "Should I set up the meeting with Natalia?" And he's like, "Barzini's people will know when you want to set up the meeting." He's like, "You mean Natalia?" And he's like, "No, Natalia is a pimp. It wasn't to this day that I knew it was Barzini all along." And that was after that meeting with the five families when you realized that he's been getting lied to. And then it's all about like crime and what is justice. I put in quotation marks because it's sort of a brutal, take it into your own hands kind of justice.
You mean the baptism scene, the justice?
No, I'm talking about the guy that made the cake. Coming about his daughter.
Oh yeah,
You want revenge? No, I want justice.
I want justice. I love America. America gave me my fortune. I raised my daughter in the American way. These men laugh at me.
Going back to masculinity, here's one for you. A quote for you. You can be a man.
What's the matter with you? In that scene, apparently he ad-libbed smacking a guy in the face. So the reaction you see from the actor playing Vince Fontaine is a real reaction because he wasn't expected to get slapped by Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando also didn't like learning lines at this point in his career. And so in many scenes, he's reading off of cue cards in the distance. And if you really watch, occasionally you'll see his eyes like flicker to the side.
I don't think I can see his eyes in the entire movie. He's got one of those protruding brows that kind of shadow his eyes, and you can't really tell what's going on.
And that way of talking, and he's like always like kind of squinting. The cat that he's playing with at the beginning of the film.
My boy.
The cat that Marlon Brando was fucking nuts at this point in his life.
Oh yeah. Well,
I mean, he got worse later on after doing like Dr. Moreau and shit. But like at this point,
he was out there.
yeah, he was starting to go over the edge in the 1970s. And so that cat that he's playing with in the opening scene wandered onto the set that day. He picked it up, brought it to the set with him, sat down, and just started petting it. And they just had to roll because he wouldn't put it down. So it's just some random cat that he found. I have here some favorite quotes from the movie. So I have a little link here site that I did. Yeah. I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Probably, I would say the two most famous quotes from the film are probably "I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse," and "Leave the gun, take the cannolis."
Cannoli.
Yeah. For justice, we must go to Don Corleone. That's the scene you're talking about, Mike, with the guy at the beginning.
There you are.
It's my family, Kay. It's not me.
Yeah, it's my family.
Total lie.
There are some quotes on here that are actually from the book, like "Revenge is a dish best served cold." They never see it in the film. That's from the book. Women and children can be careless, but not men. So talking about your masculinity theme there. I believe in America. America's where I made my fortune. I like this line from Sollozzo when he abducts Tom Hagen. I don't like violence, Tom. I'm a businessman. Blood is a big expense. In the meantime, they just hit the Godfather. They just tried to kill Don Corleone. It's not personal, Sonny. It's strictly business. And that's the scene where you start seeing Michael sort of turn to the dark side, for lack of a better term. They're all sitting in the office after the Godfather just got hit, and Sonny wants to like kill everybody. And Michael says that he'll kill Sollozzo and the police captain. And Sonny goes, "This man is taking this personal, Tom. This is business, and he's taking it very personal." And then Michael goes into his explanation. And I love the scene because you see him sitting in the chair, and you kind of see all the guys around him. But as he's going into his plan, the camera slowly zooms in on him. And from then on in the film, most of the focus is on Michael. So, like, that's the moment in the film where, like, he becomes, what he's going to become later on. When getting the guy out of his contract with the band leader, my father assured him that either his brains or his signature would be on the contract. And that's supposed to be based on Frank Sinatra and how his career.
I like the one from Tom when he goes out there for the son. Mr. Corleone is a man who insists on hearing bad news at once.
Yeah, when he goes to speak to the guy in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I like this one, and this is from the two guys that are guarding Michael when he's in Sicily. In Sicily, women are more dangerous than shotguns. Michael, when he's talking to Carlo at the end of the film, after realizing that Carlo is in on the hit on Sonny, and he's like, "Don't tell me you're innocent because it insults my intelligence and it makes me very angry." Fredo, you're my older brother and I love you, but don't ever take sides against the family again, ever.
We're going for the mattress.
Which, of course, he does in the second film, and he gets, killed for it. Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes. Jack Waltz. That's the guy you were talking about, Mike. The film guy in Hollywood. When he says he
was beautiful.
Yeah, she was the best piece of ass I ever had. And I had him all over the world. And here he comes with his olive oil skin and his guinea charm to make me look ridiculous. And a man in my position can't afford to look ridiculous. That fucking dude goes for it, man, in that scene. The horse head was real.
Oh.
The horse head that was in the bed with him was a real horse head. There was apparently like a dog food factory or something in the vicinity of where they were filming, and they borrowed the horse head from the dog food factory. So when the guy wakes up and finds the bloody horse head in his bed, like that's like a natural reaction because he didn't realize they're going to have an actual horse head in the bed with him.
Here's a good one. I don't know if this was actually in the movie.
What's that?
The lawyer with the briefcase can steal more money than a man with a gun.
Yeah, that's a quote from the book.
It's a good quote.
Yeah, you can act like a man. What's the matter with you?
You act like a man.
Luca Brasi at the beginning. I hope their first child be a masculine child. Sollozzo when he's talking to Michael Corleone at the restaurant where he gets killed. You think too much of me, kid. I'm not that clever. I have a sentimental weakness for my children, and I spoiled them, as you can see. They talk when they should listen. This is a funny one too. Clemenza when he's showing the gun to Michael that he's going to use to kill Sollozzo. This happens every 10 years, every 15 years. You're going to get rid of the bad blood. They should have stopped Hitler at Munich. Should never let that happen. Sollozzo to Tom Hagen. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead already.
You're getting a real reputation, Sonny. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, that's when he's like shooting having everybody hit. Yeah, a lot of these are book quotes. I'm like trying to like go through this. Like, Mr. Corleone is a man who insists on hearing bad news at once. Now we're. I made my point. Mo Green. You don't buy me out. I buy you out. I made my bones when you were going out with cheerleaders. Michael, you don't talk to a man like Mo Green like that. I wanted to rewatch the film before doing the episode tonight, so I rewatched it 3 times. So I'm like pretty good on it.
Here's one that goes with that. My children talk out of turn. Mm-hmm. Never tell anyone outside the family what you're thinking again.
Yeah, and that's the scene with Sonny afterwards.
Yep.
I refuse to be a fool dancing on the strings held by all those big shots. And it's that line that they got the logo for the film where it's like the puppets, marionette puppet thing on the Godfather logo. Americo Bonacera about his daughter. She was the light of my life, a beautiful girl. I swear on the souls of my grandchildren that I will not be the one to break the peace he have made here today. But I have personal reasons. My youngest son had to leave the country because of the Sollozzo business, and I need to make plans to bring him back. But I'm a very superstitious man. If he should get shot by a police officer, if he should hang himself in his jail cell, if he should be struck by a bolt of lightning, I'm going to blame some of the people in this room. That I cannot forgive. Tatalia's a pimp. Not to this day, I knew it was Barzini all along. It's a great scene. This is one of the funny scenes in the film. They're all sitting around a table, and Sonny is talking about all this different business stuff. And the sister says, Dad never talked about business at the table. And Carla goes, shut up, Connie. And Sonny's like, don't tell my sister to shut up. And then Carlo starts talking about the business, and he goes, shut up, Carlo. We don't talk about business at the table. I want somebody good. I mean, very good to plant that gun. I don't want my brother coming out of the bathroom with just his dick in his hand.
I want you to use all your power and all your skills.
Yeah. Look at how they massacred my boy.
Look what they did to my boy.
We're going to the mattresses. Man, there's so many great quotes on here. Never go against the family. Yeah, like, and there's a lot of these are book quotes too, so I'm not going to go through all of these. There's so many. I like that lawyer one. The lawyer to steal more money and a gun.
Yeah.
You have to take time and trouble. I think that's from the book too. So I mean, it's a very highly quotable film, obviously. Get back to my notes here. Goofs and continuity errors. There's some good ones in here. The most obvious one is when Sonny is beating the shit out of Carlo in the street.
Yeah.
And there's one moment where he throws a punch that misses Carlo by a good 6 inches. But you still hear the sound of the punch in the ADR, and you still see Carlo spin his head around like he got hit. It's one of those goofs you can kind of forgive because the movie is so perfect otherwise. Some of these are kind of like stupid, but when McCluskey is lying on the floor inside the restaurant after getting shot dead, he blinks. I don't know how you can see that one. It's so far away.
Mm-hmm.
When Sonny is shot at
somebody said,
oh yeah,
sorry,
there's a file. I see it. There's a file up there. The shot is so far away, and whoever wrote that was just messing around. When Sonny is shot at the toll booth, the front windshield is torn apart, but bullets. Yet when the bodyguards arrive 30 seconds later, the windshield's intact.
that's that autosave, the window replacement guys.
Yeah, they come by and
they
fix your
got
windshield for you.
They got notified. They replaced it.
What were you saying, Mike?
No. I was going along with that.
After Michael shoots Salazzo in the head, he turns to shoot McCluskey and shoots him in the throat and then in the head. But in the long shot, before he shoots McCluskey, you can see the bullet hole already. When Mo Green is shot in the right eye, the eyeglass is cracked, but there's no hole where the bullet penetrated the glass. Some of these are things like I never noticed it, like, and I just rewatch it, like I said so many times that I probably should have noticed these, but I didn't. This makes me kind of want to rewatch it again, of course. So I think the most glaring continuity error, and the one that like everybody kind of knows, is the Sonny one. So I want to get to this.
Hackett is meeting with Jack Walt. The server fills Tom's wine glass twice within a split second.
Yeah,
Tom
that
was
one
thirsty.
I have kind of
Tom was
noticed
really
before.
thirsty.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that one before, but that one's not as like glaring as the Sonny one. Casting what ifs. Michael Corleone, played expertly by Al Pacino. The studio did not want Al Pacino. They didn't think he was a big enough actor for it. At the time, he was very well known as like a stage actor in New York. He did a couple movies, but nothing like really major. So the studio wants it. Robert Redford.
Nah.
Like Robert Redford, great actor. He kind of fits the description of Pacino in the book because Michael Corleone in the book is kind of described as Northern Italian, so he's like light hair, light eyes.
Okay.
But I think Pacino just nailed the characteristics of the character. But they wanted Robert Redford or Warren Beatty because they were two of the bigger names at the time. De Niro actually, I think, tried out for the role but didn't get it. And they were talking like very, very young De Niro here, of course.
Yeah.
Ryan O'Neal and Dustin Hoffman were all in the running for the role. And there were multiple times during the filming where Pacino thought he was going to be fired and replaced with somebody else because they really didn't want him. Don Vito Corleone, played by Marlon Brando. The studio wanted Laurence Olivier. Great actor, British though. I don't know if he would have been able to pull off the American Gangster. Ernest Borgnine. McHale's Navy. Yeah, like I know him more as a comedic actor. I don't know if he would have filled that role.
He's
Danny,
done some serious stuff.
He's done some serious stuff, but he's more known for like the comedy stuff. Danny Thomas wanted to play the role so badly that he tried to buy the rights to the film, but was unable to. The studio also thought about Orson Welles, who
might have made okay.
Maybe, I don't know, because he at this point in his career he was like taking himself way too seriously. And Burt Lancaster. I think Burt Lancaster might have been able to play the role well. Mm-hmm. He actually played a mobster in a movie in the 80s and was pretty good in the role. Sonny Corleone, De Niro auditioned for that role as well. Al Pacino auditioned for that role. But the studio went either Burt Reynolds, Martin Sheen, or Anthony Perkins.
I would see Martin Sheen more as a Tom character than a.
I kind of see Martin Sheen, especially at the time, because he was really young. Either Tom or Michael Corleone.
Yeah,
like I can see Martin Sheen and Michael Corleone more than anybody else. Burt Reynolds, no, not at all. And Anthony Perkins, Norman Bates.
maybe it's Guido. It's Fredo.
Guido. Yo, who are you calling Guido?
That's Guido.
He should have been. He should have been Dago Corleone. Like,
this hit me hard.
I'm Italian, Mike. Who you calling a wop?
I ain't call anybody a wop.
Fucking cracker.
Hey.
I'm
a redneck to you.
Hey.
But yeah, Anthony Perkins, like, he's great in Psycho, but I feel like he's too subtle to be like an angry character like Sonny. You know?
Yeah.
Tom Hagen, the studio wanted Elvis Presley. Can you imagine Elvis Presley in The Godfather?
As a lawyer.
As the lawyer, Tom Hagen, yeah. It's not business. It's not personal. Son. It's only business. You also got to think this is 1972, so we're on the verge of like Fat Elvis, right? James Caan.
Don't go against the family.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli. James Caan auditioned for Tom Hagen. That's a weird one too. Like James Caan's so perfect as Sonny, I can't imagine him as Tom Hagen. Paul Newman and Steve McQueen were also names that the studio mentioned. I think Paul Newman would have did the role justice.
Yeah.
Because you got to think Tom Hagen's not Italian. He's a German Irish immigrant who was raised by this Italian family. So I think that Paul Newman, I think, would have worked.
I would think Steve McQueen would be better as a Sonny character.
Yeah, probably. I don't know if he could pull off the Italian character that well. I mean, James Caan's not Italian, but he makes it seem like he is.
Could you see if they put in Paul Newman as Tom and they had Robert Redford as Michael?
Oh my God, it'd be like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in New York.
I can't swim.
The fall will kill you. Francis Ford Coppola was almost fired numerous times. They threatened to replace him with Elia Kazan, who was a fairly popular director in the 70s. Brando refused to work with him. He worked with him on the Waterfront and hated the experience. And so said, if you hire Kazan, I'm walking off the film. Now, they needed Brando's name in the film because he was the big name. And so they stuck with Coppola for Brando's sake. They also wanted Sergio Leone, best known for the Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns.
Yep.
That would have been an interesting one to me, I think. I'm not sure if it would have
sounded very spaghetti-ish.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would have been as like serious a film. Like it would have been more campy, like those spaghetti westerns. And then the last name that they had on the list was Peter Bogdanovich, who was mainly, I think, like a comedy director, he was like a weird one for them to list. But Coppola ended up, staying on, even though he thought he was going to be fired almost every day that he was filming. And those are some of the weird ones.
Something interesting, though, Lee.
Yeah.
Going back to your help, they needed Brando because he was the star name. How many stars came out of that movie, though?
Well, that's the thing. Like stars that came out of the movie, but they didn't have stars in the roles. So right. Brando was the top bill marquee guy because he's Brando. They needed him to bring the audience in, but when the audience left, they were talking about Pacino and Caan and Robert Duvall and Talia Shire and Diane Keaton. And all the other people in the film. I didn't see any of the casting things for Diane Keaton's character as Kay and for Talia Shire as Connie Corleone. I didn't see too many for that. I know Coppola, Talia Shire is Coppola's little sister, and he really didn't want to hire her because he didn't want it to look like a nepotism thing. But then she did a screen test, and they realized that she was pretty good for the role. So, and it's not a big role in the first film anyway. Could this or should this be remade?
No.
I say no, it should not be remade. Could it be remade? Probably. But I don't think it would be as good as the original.
It would be a fun recast to do.
It would definitely be a fun recast to do.
Yeah. And what do you think? I mean, from a modern perspective, like, I mean, I appreciate the 40s, 50s, and 60s, but if they were to modernize it with like today's world,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would work as well.
I would break apart the I would break the rule that the recast of 2.0 guys keep, which is don't use actors from the original film. Because I would like to see Al Pacino as the Godfather character, like Don Corleone.
So not really like a recast, but more of a reboot.
Like, yeah. So this is like, well, if you're doing a recasted modern day version of the movie, like put him in as the old character.
Yeah.
And then you could throw somebody like Leonardo DiCaprio in there as like Sonny. We'll go outside the box here and make Jonah Hill Tom Hagen. We'll do like a Wolf of Wall Street like reunion for the cast. Margot Robbie could be Kay, you know. But I honestly, like, if they said that they were going to remake The Godfather, I would probably end this podcast, never watch a movie again, and go hide in a hole somewhere. So the last question I have here tonight is: does it still hold up?
Yes.
No, definitely. I watched it 3 times this week. Who are you talking about?
Yeah.
It definitely still holds up. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of part of my my raising. Like, if I'd lose my Italian card if I ever stopped watching it. But yeah, I think it still holds up. I think it's one of those movies that's kind of timeless because it takes place in an era so long ago that you really don't have a basis for, you know, understanding it without watching a movie like that.
Right.
So yeah, anybody have anything else to say, or
would you like to see it remastered so it's really crystal clean and the audio is pretty rocking?
I would, yeah. Because
as long as you don't add or subtract anything from it, yeah.
Well, I don't think they would do they're not going to do a George Lucas to it and put in like a whole like an extra Mos Eisley scene. But
here's the CGI sixth brother. You know?
Yeah.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah,
how are you?
It's Guido Corleone.
George Corleone. Oh, hiya, Mikey. How are you doing?
Who shot first, Guido or Han? So yeah, I would like a remaster because I watched it a few times recently, and I own it on Amazon. I bought it on Prime Video. And even watching it on Prime Video on HD TV, it still has that like older quality to it. It's not a remake. I would love to see a remastered version of it, like a
cleaned up, just clean.
Yeah, like a
audio,
like a Blu-ray sort of steelbook version of it or something like that. I would love it. Yeah. Might probably there's one out there. I have to look for it. Mike, do you have any beer wisdom for us this evening?
I do. Optimism, or a optimist. A person who believes the world is a better place with beer. Kevin?
Right now, the world's a better place with this mixed drink. The Al Pacino is pretty good.
Well, the Southern...
made a double of mine.
Yeah.
I did make mine a double. It's empty.
Mine was gone before we even got into talking about the movie.
I actually, as I was getting to the bottom of mine, I added a little bit of water to it just so I could draw it out some more, but without killing myself.
Wow.
So thanks.
I got to get breakfast with my leadership tomorrow morning.
I work with children. So does Kevin.
And they're not coming into the building, but I still work with children.
Oh, see, now I have to actually go to school tomorrow. So.
Oh no, I have to be in the building too. It's anyway, it's a thing.
Yeah, I hear you. Thanks for joining us tonight for episode 85, The Godfather at 50, our retrospective review episode. We hope you enjoyed listening to the podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. Remember to drop us a line at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit one of our links at linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all of our podcasts and social media. don't forget, you don't have to just comment on the movies we talk about. If you want to give us some drink suggestions, we're more than happy to hear what ideas you all have out there for us. Thanks
Also
again.
give us episode suggestions.
Yeah,
You know.
episode suggestions, everything. And then thanks again to all those people who helped us hit the #1 spot on Good Pods this week. Don't forget, we have a merchandise store now, too, at teespring.com, Films and Fermentation storefront. And don't forget to stop by the crossroads between Pickled and Fermented next week for episode 86. We're going to be doing Twin Films again next week, Twin Films Part 2, which is going to cover twin films from the year 2000 till today. I actually...
Year 2000.
I actually, on my ride home today, re-listened to Twin Films Part 1. Just for shits and giggles, and man, it was such an awesome episode. I really hope next week is just as good because it was so much fun. So don't forget to join us next week for that episode, folks. Twin Films Part 2, episode 86. In the meantime, as always, I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Thanks again for joining us. May your first child be a masculine child. Cheers.
Cheers.
Makeup.
Wake up! No, put a little makeup. I got a little keys on the table.
1 or 2.
1 or 2. I don't think you trust in my self-righteous suicide. Yeah, but
1 ring to rule them all. 1 ring to bind them. 1 ring to bring them all in the darkness. Bind them.
yeah, so I had Beastie Boys.
What?
He sent me, I think it's a Beastie Boys thing, singing the lyrics to the Lord of the Rings, like 1 ring to rule them all thing. All right.
I think we all may have
Yeah, it
had the
looks like
same
it's healing,
idea
so.
tonight.
Mine's
what?
a little different.
For the drink?
Yeah.
No, I guarantee you don't got mine.
No?
I went with an alternate because I didn't want to use the same one I used for the Mob Bracket podcast. So
Can I tell you guys, we were at Thanksgiving dinner last week and I had mentioned the podcast and my sister-in-law says, "Wait, you do a podcast?" It's like, are you kidding me?
didn't we tell her about it before? Or was that the other sister-in-law?
No, we've told them all on
Yes,
several
I know.
occasions.
I remember like showing them the podcast on the phone.
Yes. Yes.
And then there's me who starts taking the room apart, and we did one time where they left a screwdriver in the room that wasn't supposed to be there, and I'm like, boy, this screwdriver doesn't seem to fit with the Revolutionary War theme that this room's supposed to have, but I guess it's supposed to be for something. So I started taking one of the clocks off the wall that was screwed into the wall. And it wasn't really, giving me any clues or anything. So I stopped for a minute. And when I turned around, the girl that worked there came snuck in the door like this, grabbed the screwdriver and took it out of the room real quick.
I thought you were going to say they went over the intercom. Please do not take apart this escape room.
Yeah, she was like, it was more like oh shit, I left the screwdriver in there. All right. So for the cold open, we're just gonna read through the lines and then
Are we doing accents?
Have some fun with it. Do whatever you feel like doing. If you want to do an Irish accent, I don't care. Do your Sean Connery. Sean Connery doing Marlon Brando.
May your first podcast be a masculine podcast. How do you like that, Trebek?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. So we'll get. I'm gonna make him a podcast he can't refuse. That's you, Kev.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we start?
Yeah, let's start. Okay, let's try again. That was the practice run. Here we go. Yeah.